Hello, Smarter Families. Welcome to another edition of our Summertime Social Studies. This week we will be reviewing history. So, what is history? History is the story of people, places, and events that have happened in the past. We find out about these stories from papers and objects that people have left behind. This is called evidence. There are two types of evidence that historians, people who study history, use. There are primary sources that come from actual time period that an event happened. Primary sources include things like diaries from long ago, tools, newspapers, maps, paintings, and photographs. We also learn history from secondary sources. These sources are not from the actual time of an event, but much later. Secondary sources include websites that help us learn more, like History.com, National Geographic, or museum websites like the Smithsonian Learning Lab. We can also read books or magazines to learn more about history. Primary sources are those things that people have left behind from the time of an event. There are two types of primary sources that help us learn more about history: artifacts and documents. Artifacts are actual objects like clothes, tools, toys, and ceramic pots. Documents are the papers left behind, like diaries, newspapers, maps, licenses, or any other official records. After discovering artifacts and documents from the past, we can put together a story about the events. The 5 W's that we learn about in reading also help us put those history stories together too. The 5 W's include: what happened, where did it happen, when did it happen, who was involved, and why did it happen. So when we think about our state of Delaware and how it was first settled, we discovered these 5 W's. Delaware's first settlement was Wanendale, which is now in Lewis, in 1631. The Dutch landed there to trade for beaver furs. We know this from documents and artifacts that were discovered. Just like any story we read, they are usually written in sequential or chronological order. That means in time order. What happened first, second, next, and so on. Timelines help us organize events from the past in chronological order. Let's go back to our example of Delaware. We study Delaware's history in chronological order or time order. We know that the Native Americans, the Lenni Lenape, were the first people of Delaware and were known to have settled there by the 1400s. They moved up and down the East Coast searching for land to farm. Then in 1609, an English explorer, Henry Hudson, discovered the Delaware Bay, but he did not actually land in Delaware. Then by 1631, the Dutch settled in Swannendale in Lewis, but that only lasted a year. Then the Swedish settled in the Wilmington area and built Fort Christina in 1638. They came over on a ship called the Kalmar Nickel. And by 1651, the Dutch came back to build and settle Fort Casimir in Newcastle. These few events in Delaware history are in chronological order using a timeline. When we learn of history, an important part is the people that were involved in an event, the who. For example, in Delaware history, we learn about the Native Americans of Delaware, the Lenni Lenape, explorers like Henry Hudson, and leaders like Peter Minuit and Johann Prince. People are an important part of history. Now it's time for some history fun, but this time we will be learning about our country, the United States. Kindergarten and first graders, you will be learning about historical figures of the United States. Second and third graders, you're going to learn even more about famous Americans in the United States history, but using chronological order. Fourth through sixth graders, you'll be discovering more about events that led to the westward expansion of our country. Thank you for reviewing history this week. Have fun and good luck.